We are studying impedance measurement and AC bridges. Uh, okay, so let me start today's class with a small exercise with you. Uh, this is our textbook, one page from our textbook. Look, so there are a lot of bridges drawn on this page. Okay, so here is one particular bridge which is given here. Let me draw this for you because this may not be visible well. So this is like this. I mean, your task will be to finish the balance equation by the time I finish my drawing. We have resistance, LR coil, okay, R1, L2, R2, R3, and here we have R 1, 2, 3, 4, C4. Okay, and find, so maybe detector is here. Find the balance equation. Do it quickly, please. You are trying, or you want me to start? Who are trying? Please raise your hand. Okay. Okay.
So the value of the capacitance is C4.
C4, okay. Anybody got anything so far? Okay, you may finish this calculation. I mean, at at your spare time, and you must get something impossible. So, I mean, you must get something that,
Sir, something weird means I'm getting
yeah,
L2C4 plus R2 by R4 equal to 0.
something weird you must get, because it is impossible to balance this bridge. You just look at this bridge and say, remember the balance equations. Mod Z1 by Z2 is equal to mod Z3 by Z4, and what else, Z1 2 3 4, so theta 1 minus theta 2 equal to theta 3 minus theta 4. These are the two conditions required. Or I can also say that theta 1 plus theta 4. Theta 1 plus 4 should be equal to theta 3 plus 2. Okay. But you see, I mean, here theta is how much? 0. 0. Here how much? Something between 0 and minus 90 degree. Okay. Theta 4 is, let me write, minus 45. It's not minus 45 necessarily. I mean, to indicate it's somewhere between 0 and minus 90. This is between 0 and plus 90. 40 plus 45. So if you add this to this, you are going to get a negative value. If you add this to this, you are going to get a positive value. So this is negative, this is positive. You add this to this, negative, this to this plus this is positive, and they can never be equal. So I mean, this bridge is not possible to balance. It's impossible to balance. And so my point here is that I mean, in practice, we may be in a situation where we want to measure an unknown impedance, and we may like to use a bridge circuit, and then it is our choice to design or to decide what to put in the other three arms in our bridge circuit. No matter whatever you choose, don't choose anything that is not balanceable at all, something like this. Okay, so all bridge, I mean, so you need some amount of cleverness to design a bridge. Not a very difficult thing. I mean, this is obvious. And also my second point is that if you are reading a book or watching a lecture, don't follow everything blindly. Everyone can make mistakes. Our book has several mistakes. I may be doing more mistakes than that every day. The point is not that we make mistakes, but the point is we should keep our minds and eyes always open. Okay. I mean, honor the authors for the good things they have done. Ignore the small mistakes, they may be printing mistake, etc. Don't dishonor them for that, but also keep your eyes open and have your own judgment. Okay, acha. Next, let us now take small exercises. Okay, suppose I want to measure a capacitor, okay, with a bridge circuit, and so among these four arms, one of them will have the unknown capacitor, and suppose here is the capacitor, and I model it as a parallel combination of R and C, Cx, Rx. Okay, and the question is, what would you like to put in these other three arms? So I suggest always try to follow the idea of a product bridge or a ratio bridge, and that will make our lives, our balance equation simple. Now, as we studied this yesterday, if you want to make say a ratio bridge, what you can do, take two adjacent arms such that their ratio is a pure real number or pure imaginary number. For example, I can choose say these two adjacent arms. You could also choose maybe these two, no problem. Maybe I choose these two adjacent arms to be purely real number R1 and 1, 2, 3 R3. Then what will you choose here? What are the options? Will you choose a pure resistance? Yes or no?
No, sir.
No. Why? Because then you cannot get balance. If you take pure resistance, then ratio, sum of this angle plus this angle is 0, but sum of these two angles is not 0. Achha.
We have to take something with lagging power factor.
We have to take something with lagging power factor, exactly. We cannot take an inductor or RL combination, because then again angle balance is not possible. Okay, so now lagging power factor. Okay, will you choose this? This has a lagging power factor. Fine, you can choose it, no problem.
This is the Wien's bridge, right?
This is called Wien's bridge, we'll come to that. But will you choose this? If you choose, since you said this is Wien's bridge, okay, so let me try to find the balance equation. Let me just call this. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, C4, R4. Okay, now how to get the balance equation? Let's see, if we want to get the balance equation, this is called Wien's bridge. No need to remember the names or circuits. So R1 by R3, that will be equal to this impedance by this impedance. Okay, let me write it. This impedance, let me write it in the opposite order, R3 by R1. I am trying to see which way the problem will be easier. If I write R3 by R1, then this is R4 plus 1 by j omega C4 whole divided by this impedance. So let me rather multiply with this admittance. So that will be j omega C2 plus 1 by R2. Now I have to multiply, no other choice. R4 by R2, R4 by R2, then j C2 by C4. Please check my calculation. C2 by C4 plus R4 C2 j omega, R4 C2 j omega, R4 C2 j omega plus 1 by C4 R2 j omega, C4 R2 j omega. Okay, now that means R3 by R1 equal to R4 by R2 plus C2 by C4. This is what we get by equating the real parts, and this side has no imaginary part, so 0 will be equal to this R4 C2 plus 1 by R2 C4. These are the two equations, 1 and 2. This second, also I have omega, j omega and j omega. Okay, so now I can write so minus omega squared R2 R4 C2 C4 plus 1 whole divided by this thing. This is equal to 0, and from this we can write omega squared. So this numerator should be 0, so omega squared will be 1 over R2 R4 C2 C4, or root over this will be equal to omega. So this is the other equation. Okay, so we will always have two equations in any bridge based method. So these are the two equations, and they are not as nice as we got for the yesterday's bridge, and the derivation was also longer than what we did yesterday. Okay, however, this bridge is not that ugly. This bridge is also this bridge also has a use in laboratory. Okay, we do not use this bridge for measuring impedance or for measuring capacitance, capacitors, etc. This bridge actually is used for measuring frequency omega. Okay, so if you have all your impedances known, you can measure the value of omega. Okay, yeah. But if your purpose is to make a simple bridge, okay, then you may rather use, yes please.
Sir, why do we not measure capacitance from this bridge?
You can, in principle, you can, if omega is known, and say in principle if omega is known and all other parameters are known, only say R2 C2 is unknown, you have two equations. If you have and you have two unknowns, you can in principle solve them. But I believe for measuring capacitors or impedance, we will not go for this ugly derivations, because as we saw yesterday, if this is my unknown, here if I take this, yes.
Sir, for frequency, we are already going through that derivation. So, what is the exactly problem in going through it again, like for capacitance measurement?
No problem. I'm not saying you cannot use that. I'm not saying that. Okay, but if I have to do something simpler, I will possibly go for something like this. Okay, because then my balance equation, because then my life is easy. No problem if you choose the other one. But all I want to say, this is not a very scientifically interesting thing to say, but the fact is that if I take this side also in the parallel combination, just like my unknown side, then my calculation of balance equation becomes simpler. Only that's the thing. The only minor point here is that if you make your bridge in the form of a ratio bridge or a product bridge, your balance equation comes out to be very simple. That's all. Okay, in fact, this chapter to me is the least interesting chapter in this course, these bridges. Maybe you can say this is the most uninteresting or disinteresting chapter. Fundamentally, this is the only science behind all these things we are going to do. Nothing more than that is involved. And all the juggleries that we are doing is only small mathematical tricks with which you can do your calculations in fewer steps. Okay, that's all. There is no, at least I don't think there is much more scientifically interesting things here. Even if you do not go for ratio or product bridge, you can still find your balance equation and no problem, other than it will take more time, that's all. Okay. Next, in the same way, now if I give you a task that you have a coil with unknown inductance and resistance, which we can model as this Lx Rx, and your task is make a simple bridge to measure this. This is the unknown. What would you like to choose here in these three arms? Okay, suppose we go for a product bridge. Okay, so if we go for a product bridge, then the opposite two arms should be, I mean their product should be a pure real or imaginary number. So I may choose two pure resistances here. Then what will you choose here? Will you go for a capacitor? So we cannot take a coil here, we cannot take a inductor here. Then balance equation will not be valid. Theta, I mean angle balance will not be possible. So we have to go for some RC, something with lagging power factor. Okay. Now what will you choose? Will you choose RC in series or in parallel? If you choose something in series, you can still balance your bridge, but only thing, I mean, okay, when you write the balance equation, we will write in this way: this impedance j omega Lx plus Rx divided, let me call it 1, 2, 3, 4 arm numbers, okay, then divided by Z3, this impedance, that will be equal to, let me write in the product form, okay, let me write in the product form. So this multiplied by Z3 will be R1, R2. Okay, now this is the unknown, so let me bring this known to the other side, Z3. Now if I take something in series here, C3R3, then I have to write R3 plus 1 by j omega C3. I have to multiply the numerator and denominator with R3 minus j omega C3, simplify, and it will take longer time. But what if I just choose to write this in the form of admittance? Okay, and then I also choose this to be a parallel combination of R and C, because whenever I use admittance, then if I take parallel combination, the admittance is just the sum of two admittances. Okay, so then in place of Y3 I can write j omega C3 plus 1 by R3, and I am done. Now I can equate the real to real and imaginary part to imaginary part. That's all. Okay, and this is what we also saw yesterday, and this is called Maxwell's bridge. We did this yesterday. Okay, so this little bit of cleverness only helps in writing the balance equation quickly. That's all. Okay, acha. Now it is not necessary always that we have to, I mean, if we make a product bridge, we always have to take the opposite two arms to be pure resistances. Okay, so let me tell that with an example. Suppose we are going to measure an unknown capacitor, and suppose we model it in series combination CX RX. Okay, acha. Now suppose we want to make a product bridge. So that's the target. Say we want to make a product bridge. Okay. If we make a ratio bridge, we already saw it yesterday. It's quite simple. Yes, here. Okay. But suppose we want to make a product bridge. So product bridge means what? The opposite two arms, their product of the product of opposite two arms should be a pure real or imaginary number. So that means these two arms should be a pure real or imaginary number. Okay, now if I choose them to be like this. That is one way. Then what do I have to choose here? Any suggestion?
A coil.
A
With
coil.
an inductor in parallel with a resistor.
Good. Okay, so this must be something with leading power factor, and we will choose this to be to have the admittance form. Okay, that means in parallel. So now let me tell one more fact. Let me add one more constraint. Don't go for standard inductors as long as possible. Don't go for standard inductors. Rather use standard capacitors. Because standard value inductors are not that well available compared to standard value capacitors. One obvious reason is that it is more impossible to make, to make a pure inductor is impossible, because it will always have coil conductor resistance along with that. Compared to that, rather it is possible to make a pure capacitor, because we can have near perfect insulations. Okay, so therefore also in laboratories it is often not available. Standard value inductors are not that much available. Okay, so as long as possible avoid using standard value inductors. So design a bridge without using inductors. Okay, so now what can you do?
Use the capacitor in parallel with the resistor.
Okay, if we go for a RC combination, 1, 2, let me be consistent, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, Achha, now do you see any problem in this bridge? Anyone?
Sir, I don't think it will satisfy that phase criteria.
Excellent. So the sum of theta 1 plus theta 4 is 0, but sum of these two angles is not 0. Okay, so this is not balanceable. Achha. So any suggestion, any modification? Let me tell you. What if say I change one of either of these two resistances with a pure capacitor, C1, R4. This is R3, C3. This is still a product bridge. For a product bridge, it is not necessary that, these two opposite arms should be always pure resistances. All I need is that their product is a pure real or imaginary number. That is enough. Now let us see how the balance equation comes out to be. So Cx Rx, this impedance, let me write Rx plus 1 by j omega Cx, then this multiplied by Z3, that will be equal to this product of these two, R4 by j omega, you can write the j above or below, doesn't matter, j omega Cx, maybe I write it above minus j for ease of visualization. Okay, acha. Okay, so this is this by this, right? Now from this, Rx minus 1 by j omega Cx, that will be minus jr4 by omega Cx multiplied by
So why is
y3.
it Rx minus 1 by j omega Cx?
Any mistake?
Should it not be plus 1 by j omega Cx?
Yes, sir, that will be plus.
Sorry. I forgot to move it up. Yeah, thank you. And also, yeah, here this is 1. This is 1, right? Okay. 4 multiplied with 1, 4 multiplied with 1, and here 3 multiplied with x. Yes. Please check once. I think it's fine. Yeah, now this multiplied with y3. Okay, now in place of y3, what do I write? 1 by r3 plus minus j by omega c3. Okay, now you can easily equate the real part to real part and imaginary part to imaginary part. Okay. So,
Sir, on the right hand side, it's the impedance, right? Like it's Y3. So it should be 1 by R3 plus j omega C3.
Right. Thank you. 1 by R3 plus j omega C3. Okay. Yeah. Now it's fine. Please check this. Admittance, product, impedance. Looks fine. Okay. Now you equate the balance. Equate the real to real and imaginary to imaginary, and we are done. Okay. So that implies Rx will be from here R4 C3 by C1, and from here Cx, that will be minus j omega, that finds C1 by R4 R3. Please check if I am correct. Okay. By the way, this bridge is called Sedding's bridge. Spelling I'm not sure. You don't have to remember the name. Okay. This bridge, when it is used in laboratory, also has a few benefits. Let me just tell you that briefly. This bridge is often used for measuring high voltage capacitors. Okay, and so this capacitor is a high voltage capacitor, HV capacitor. So it is supposed to be used under high voltage applied across the two terminals, and therefore while we are measuring it, we should also measure it under high voltage applied across it, because if we measure it with a low voltage, then that measured value may not be same as its behavior under high voltage. I mean, the same element may have different behavior under different voltage applied. Okay. For example, the leakage current may change. Okay. So it is supposed to be measured with a high voltage applied across it. Now the way it is used is like this. We give the high voltage here. This end you can take as grounded. Okay, here is the detector. This is the unknown, so we do not change it, we cannot change it. We will also choose a fixed value capacitor here, and we will choose this 3 to be variable or controllable. We will change these 3, R3, C3 and R4, to get balance. Okay, so here C3, R3 and R4, these are changeable. Okay, and by that you have to satisfy these two equations, 1 and 2. Okay, now the nice thing is that what is done, we choose these two impedances of a lower value compared to these two impedances. Therefore, what will happen? This is a high voltage, okay, and this high voltage is dropped from here to here. Since this impedance is much higher compared to this impedance, therefore much of the voltage will be dropped across this impedance compared to this. Therefore, the voltage at this point is not high, not very high. This is at ground level, so this is also close to ground level, and also similarly at near balance, this is also close to ground level. Therefore, the person who is operating this bridge, he is controlling these three impedances, and these three impedances are, I mean, the potentials across them is close to ground potential. Therefore, this is a bit safer to use this arrangement. Okay, if
Z3 is of low impedance, is also of low impedance.
This side is also of much lower impedance compared to C1. Yeah. Okay. But if I had designed a bridge where this side is also variable, okay, so maybe let me see. Do I have anything? Yeah, I mean, suppose if I go for this bridge, okay, and if I apply the high voltage here, then, you know, I mean, I have to definitely control this arm. It is impossible to balance this bridge by controlling only these two arms. So if I had made such a bridge, then I have to control these two impedances, and therefore I have to work, I mean with higher voltage, even if this end is grounded. Okay, so because this voltage is high, so this voltage will also be high, and this is slightly, I mean, a bit more risky than this one. Okay, that is one advantage of this bridge. Anyway, this is not the unique solution to this problem. Okay. Achha. Next. What's next? Settings B. Okay, fine. Next. Let me tell the story in this way. Suppose I have an unknown inductor to measure. So let me put the unknown inductor here. Okay. Now the target is to make a simple bridge. What? So give me suggestions. What different types of simple bridge you can think of? What will you choose here, here, here? And then we will discuss about the relative merits and demerits of those suggestions as much as we can. So any suggestions to start with?
So one possible way is the Maxwell's bridge.
One possible is Maxwell's bridge, we saw already here. Any other suggestion? Maxwell's bridge is, let me show you that. It is here, and this is a product bridge. This is a product bridge because the product of the opposite two arms is chosen to be a pure real number. Okay. Actually, can we go for a ratio bridge? Any suggestion? If we go for a ratio bridge, what will you choose? If we go for a ratio bridge, suggestions, please. Okay, so maybe we can choose this. We choose these two to be pure resistances. Okay, for a ratio bridge, we have to choose the ratio of two adjacent arms as a pure real or imaginary number. So we may choose these two.
So we can use another coil in the remaining arm.
Yeah, if we do that, so 1, 2, 3, 4. If we choose these two to be pure resistances, then we can go for another coil here. We cannot go for a
But
capacitor
this won't
here.
be like this won't be this will be an inductor, so its standard value it's not
Good,
like
very
pretty
good,
consistent.
very good. So here we cannot use a capacitor, otherwise we cannot balance. So definitely we have to go for a coil, I mean inductor. And if we go for an inductor, the disadvantage is that, I mean, as I said, don't go for a standard value inductor, use standard value capacitors as long as possible. Okay, so in principle we can go for this, but that's the disadvantage. Very good. Okay, Acha, now again the question is, if we go for an inductor, what will you choose? RC series, sorry, RL series or RL parallel? Which will give easy equation?
Series.
Parallel.
Series, not parallel. Okay, so let's see. Lx Rx, let me do it quickly. Rx plus j omega Lx, j omega Lx. We are going for a ratio bridge. So this divided by this, call it 1, Z1. Okay, this will be equal to this by this, 4 by 3, R4 by R3. Okay, so now I will bring Z1 here. Okay, now if I take something in parallel, calculation of Z1 is difficult. But if I take something in series, Z1 I can write very easily. It will be L1 J omega R1 plus J omega L1. Okay, then series is easy. L1 R1. Okay, that is one thing. Achha. Now can we do something else? Suppose we want to make, let me think of a problem. What can I say? Give me. Okay. So by the way, the disadvantage here, we have to use a standard inductor, which is not a good choice. What if I, so this is a ratio bridge. Okay, if we go for a product bridge, then we can use Maxwell bridge, no problem. Achha. If we use a ratio bridge, achha, so the question is this. Okay, let me ask the question. We will use ratio bridge.
So can we do it like this? We can use a capacitor in the third arm and then use a capacitor combination in the first arm as well.
Okay, that's what I was trying to go to. Okay, so we okay, let me pose the problem. We will use a ratio bridge, but we will avoid standard inductor. Okay, so as you suggested, so one possibility is this. Because for a ratio bridge, it's not necessary that these two should be purely real. What is necessary that their ratio is pure real or pure imaginary number. Okay. Now, if we take this to be a pure capacitor 1, 2, C3, okay, then what can we put here? Okay, what is the choice? So see that the angle of this is minus 90, this is something positive, so minus 90 plus something positive means the sum of these two will be in which range?
Negative.
Negative.
It can also be positive.
It can also be positive. It can also be positive. Okay, acha. Now here, if I take a capacitor, then this will be negative. Then this will definitely be negative. Acha. But I can take a capacitor, no problem. So I can take a RC combination. Then the sum of these two will be negative, and this can also be negative. Okay, provide No, this will be negative only because this is, isn't it? This is always, this is minus 90 and this can be maybe minus plus 89 and this sum is still negative. Okay. So I can take RC without any problem. This two sum is negative, this two sum is also negative. So I can choose some RC combination here. RC combination is fine. Now the question is, what will you choose? RC series or RC parallel? Call it 1, 2, 3, 4. RC series or RC parallel?
Parallel.
Let us see.
Series.
Acha, let us see. Okay, so we are making a ratio bridge, right? So this divided by this, Rx plus j omega Lx, this divided by Z1. Now we will equate this to R4 by this, so that will be j omega R4 C4, correct? This divided by Z1, R4 divided by 3, correct? R4 by 1 by j omega, that is this. Okay, now from this we can write Rx plus j omega Lx is equal to j omega R4 C3 Z1. Now what do you think? What should I choose, Z1 in series or in? So I will choose this to be in series. C1, yes, R1. Then this will become R1 plus 1 by j omega C1. Okay, now you can easily equate the real part to real part and imaginary part to imaginary part. Okay, I think this bridge also has a name. If I am not mistaken, then this is probably called Wens bridge. Don't try to, okay, let me not write. We need not remember these names. Okay, any question? Okay. So my point is that don't try to remember anything. I mean, that's the thing. By the way, this bridge, I mean, we can also use this bridge for a special purpose. Okay, that special purpose is like this. Okay, suppose we want to measure incremental inductance. Incremental inductance measurement. What do I mean by incremental inductance measurement? If we have a coil, then we can draw the BH curve. The BH curve looks like this, okay, where this is basically H or current. This is proportional, x-axis is proportional to the current and y-axis is proportional to the flux, and the derivative of flux is the voltage. Okay, so dB dt is proportional to the voltage, and voltage divided by current is the L. L is given by the voltage by current. Now for simplicity, let me ignore this hysteresis loop. Okay, suppose the hysteresis is not that much, for simplicity of understanding. So you can think that, okay, the curve is like this. It has saturation. So we are talking about an iron core coil. It still has saturation, but hysteresis is not that much. So you may think, okay, the hysteresis band is very narrow, something like this. So it's so narrow that we can think this as a single line. Now suppose we have applied a sinusoidal current. Current is varying like this. Okay, so current is varying like this, and it is varying between this range, okay, from here to here. Then what will happen? Then the flux B will vary from here to here, okay, from here to here. So this much is the flux variation. Okay, so okay, we have a significant amount of flux variation, and therefore we will get some amount of voltage also. Now suppose we have a current which has a DC offset. Suppose my current is varying like this here. Okay, so current here is varying from here to here. So it has a DC value, and on top of that DC value I have an AC. Okay, so it's varying like this. If so, so this is the range of current variation. Yes. Okay, so then how will the flux vary? So flux will vary from here to here. So flux will vary like this. I mean, this is this path that will be traced by this BH curve. So flux will vary actually from here to here. Okay, only a small amount of variation. And if flux is varying less, then the voltage will also be less. Okay, because dB dt is proportional to the voltage. Rate of change of flux is the voltage. So compared to the previous case where there was no DC offset, where we got significant amount of flux and significant amount of voltage, in this case for the same amount of current variation, same amount of AC current, the flux is less, flux variation is less, and therefore voltage is less. Therefore in the second case inductance will be more or less compared to the first case.
Sir, less.
Inductance will be less. Okay, so therefore in the second case when we have a DC offset, we will get less inductance, and this inductance is called incremental inductance. Okay, I mean this is with respect to this DC current, this DC offset value. Now suppose we want to measure this incremental inductance for a coil. What can we do?
Sir, can you again explain why the inductance will be less?
Thank you. So that is because you see that here this rate current is varying from here to here. Okay, and for that if I draw these vertical lines and then extend them with like this, so this is the range of flux variation. Current is varying from here to here, AC current with a DC offset, and this is the range of flux variation. Flux is varying from here to here. Okay, and the rate of change of flux is voltage. Now here we see flux is changing by a smaller amount compared to the previous case. In the previous case current was varying from here to here like this, same amount of current variation as the second case, but flux variation for this is from here to here. Okay, so this is the range of flux variation which is much larger. Okay.
Hello, sir. Sir, but this one is B versus I curve, right? Like dB by di is small in that range, but how can you say that dB by dt will be small as compared to I? Because L will be V by I.
Please repeat your question.
Sir, like this is the curve for V versus I. So
this is the curve for V. This is the curve for B versus I, right?
So in that range which you mentioned, B is having a small range as compared to I, but like L will be V by I, right? But V is
wait. B, I mean the range of variation of B is small, but L is V by I,
D,
and
and L is dB by dt, not
and
dB.
V is dB by dt. Yes, by I, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And we are assuming that this green and this red current both have same frequency.
Okay.
Okay, so by the time this green current makes one cycle, this red current also makes one cycle. So in the same amount of time, for the first case, flux changes from the green flux changes from here to here. So you see a large amount of flux is changing. So dB dt is large at any point of time. Okay, whereas in the second case, the amount of flux change is less, but the time is same frequency. So dB by dt is less. Now it's fine.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, so yeah, so therefore now let us assume that we want to measure this incremental inductance. Okay, so what we will do, let me just copy this. Okay, so first we will supply a DC current. You may like to measure it if you want. This is to control the DC current. Okay, now this DC current will that cannot flow through this path. Okay, that will flow only through this inductor. Okay, now on top of this, let me give a AC voltage to pass a AC current. Okay, now the moment I do this, there are some small problems. Now problem number one, this AC current will also flow through this DC source. That may be harmful for this DC source. I don't like that, so let me put a series capacitor. Oh, so now this current will not disturb this source, but at the same point this DC source will disturb this AC source. Okay, this current can flow through this. Okay, we may not like that, so we may just put a inductor. So this current will not go through the source, this will go only through this. Okay, so the DC current goes only through this coil. AC current goes also on to this bridge, it does not go to the source. Okay, fine. Now this AC current will go through these both arms.
Sir, the inductor will be short for the DC, right?
So I think
Oh, sorry, I did.
should-
Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you. I did completely opposite thing. Okay, so here I will put a inductor so that this inductor will not disturb this DC current at all. Okay, it will act as a short circuit, but this AC will not flow through this path. And here I will put a thanks a lot. Here I will put a capacitor, so this will not flow like this, but this will go to the bridge. Okay, what I did previously was completely wrong, absolutely wrong. Thank you. Okay, now
Sir, again, why will the AC current not flow through the DC source?
it's not that it will not flow at all, but if I choose a large value of inductor, then only a small value of current.
Oh yeah. Okay. Got it.
Now let me put a detector here, and now, okay, also a nice thing, I mean, for choosing this bridge, this format of bridge here is that even DC current will not flow through this detector, okay, because yeah, I mean DC cannot go like this, or I mean because there is no path for this, so DC will not come to the detector, only the AC part can go, okay. So the measure this detector only will be affected by the AC part, AC, I mean whether it is balanced by the AC current, AC voltages or not, okay. But this DC will only offset this I mean this average level, okay. Fine, any question? Okay, so that could be one use of this bridge. So what's next?
So,
Yes.
so could we use the two sources in series, DC and AC?
Yeah, I mean, if you just want to sum the two currents in this coil that we are measuring, then you can just add them in series. Then also their current will get summed. But one disadvantage there is that then the current of the AC source will flow through the DC source, and the current of DC source will flow through the AC source. And we may not like the sources to disturb each other, okay. Then in that case we may go for this. It depends on it depends on particular situation. If you are okay with DC current flowing through the AC source and vice versa, if that is not going to damage the coils, no problem. It depends. I mean that also depends on amount of current that you want to pass, okay. So there is no hard and fast rule here, nothing to be remembered. I mean from this exercise we get some small ideas that okay, with a capacitor you can stop the DC current from flowing in a particular branch, etc., etc. These small ideas will stay with us, and depending on the particular application in our life, we can use these small ideas with complete care, okay.
Okay, sir.
Achha. Next, one more thing, let me try. So we studied Maxwell's bridge. Don't need to remember the name. Basically we studied this bridge where we can measure this unknown coil with a standard capacitor. This is a product bridge. Achha, now let us see a situation. The situation is like this. Suppose we are measuring a coil which is close to a perfect coil. That means this resistance is very small, okay. So that means the quality factor of this coil will be what? Low, high? What do you think? This is nearly perfect coil.
So it will be very high.
So high, very high. Okay. So high Q situation is high Q coil. Achha. If the coil has a high quality factor, then this resistance is much smaller compared to L. Then can you tell me that at balance, so for balance you will need some value of C3 and R3, okay. Can you tell, at balance what will be the value of
R3
R3?
has to be very high.
R3 has to be very high, because if this is nearly pure, if this angle is nearly 90 degree, then this angle should also be nearly minus 90 degree. So this capacitor should be nearly pure. So this parallel path should have very high resistance. So then we need high R3. But we also said at some point that okay, very high R3 is also, very high resistances are also not easily, standard resistances are not easily available because we have the problem of parallel surface conductance, etc. Okay, so suppose our calculation says that the required value of R3 comes out very high, which is not available to us. Okay, in the laboratory when we are adjusting these things and suddenly we hit the maximum range of available R3 value and we do not get the balance still, then what will we do?
So we could take a relatively smaller capacitance.
Okay, that is one possibility. You adjust this thing, that is one possibility. Okay, that see, the solution is not always unique. Okay, the solution is not always unique, and so yeah, you may play with this capacitor. You may change. So if you cannot make this very high, okay, then but you still have to get just once again get the angle very close to 90 degree. So then you may make this impedance also lower. That means you can choose higher C3. Okay, that is possible. But then this impedance is also becoming lower. But then you have to make the product of these two, this 3 and 2, magnitude of 3 and magnitude of 2 equal to R1 and R4. Then you also have to lower either R1 and R4. Yes, that is possible.
Sir, instead of that R3, we could use several medium resistances in series.
Also that is possible. Also that is possible. So I'm saying it's not, this situation is all, solution is not always unique. The purpose why I asked you this is this. I wanted to highlight another possible solution, which is to choose to put the R and C in parallel series. 1, 2, 3, C3, R3 in series. If we do that, since now this is nearly pure, then this R3 should be small. Now we can work with small value of R3. This is another possible solution. Okay. So I'm trying to give you as many ideas as I have. Okay, but it's not that these are the only possible solutions. So you can, instead of going for parallel combination, you can go for series combination. Then you can work with small value of resistance. But then what is the disadvantage of going for a series combination? The disadvantage is that balance equation will be difficult. Writing the balance equation will be difficult. Okay. But then what we can do, we can at the same time we can model this unknown as a parallel combination. Okay, we model our coil to be a parallel combination of L and R, and then you see again the balance equation will be easy. How? Let us see. So let me write that this impedance R3 plus 1 by j omega C3, okay, this impedance multiplied by multiplied by zx, that will be equal to R1 R4 product form. Now I will take zx that side. I will write yx, and yx is nothing but 1 by Rx plus 1 by j omega Lx, and I am done. Okay, so that is, I mean, I'm just trying to give you different ideas. So if you need to model this in, if you need to use this in series, you can model this in parallel. And also, if you at all, I mean, if you have a constraint to model this in series, then what you can do? You can first work with the parallel combination, do the balancing, everything, and then yesterday we studied how to convert a parallel combination into equivalent series combination. Then you can do that. Okay. So all these ideas you can use. Achha. Okay. Achha. Next, let me. Okay. So yesterday I said that there are many bridges. All bridges have some name in the book. You don't have to remember them. All bridges are designed due to some purpose. I mean, for some particular situation. And I am trying to give you some example of those situations as much as I know. And but the two main factors, I mean, two dominating factors are: number one, the balance equation should be simple, for which we may like to choose the product form or the ratio form. And number two, the balance and the balancing method, I mean, in the laboratory it should be easy. It should not be too iterative, too boring or so. Okay, so let me tell that aspect very quickly. I cannot go much deeper into that, but very briefly. Okay, let me take a simple bridge L R source, detector, okay, and R1, L1, L2, R2, R3, R4. Now suppose this is the unknown, these are the unknowns. So now you have to then adjust this. In laboratory you have to adjust these two. You may also need to adjust these two. But for simplicity, let's assume that at some point we have kept these two fixed and we are adjusting these two to get the balance. How we will do this in laboratory? We may first choose one particular value of R1 and then change only L1. We may increase L1, L1, L1 and look at the deflection. Suppose as we increase L1, the deflection is reducing. At some point, the deflection will be minimum. After that, if we increase L1 further, we will see the deflection is again increasing. So at that point where we get the minimum deflection, we will freeze or fix the value of L1. Then we will change R1 keeping L1 fixed. So now we are changing R1 and looking at the deflection. As we change R1, the deflection may decrease up to some point and then again it will start to increase. We will choose the point where we get minimum deflection. Then we will fix that value of R1. After that, what we will do? We will again change the value of L1 and get the minimum deflection. After that, again we will change the value of R1 keeping L1 fixed. In this way, iteratively we have to change R1, then L1, then R1, then L1 and so on. This is a boring process. Now the target is that it should not be very boring. Okay, so the question is how quickly we will get the convergence. That is the question. How quickly we will go to zero deflection or very close to zero deflection. Okay, is the question clear so far? So let me take this as my reference node. So if this is V, then this potential is at V. Now since I'm changing this, now in the absence of the meter, this potential is fixed. Okay. Let me assume. So let me to make our analysis simple, let me assume detector to have high impedance like an ideal voltmeter or oscilloscope. Okay, so that the current flowing through the detector is very small, and therefore when you are changing the left side of the bridge, this potential will not change or will not change much. Okay, so this is a fixed potential, V fixed. Okay, I'm just trying to make our analysis simple. Now we are changing these two. When we will get balance? We will get balance when this potential will be equal to this V fixed. When we change this impedance, then this current will change. Okay, the current through the detector is negligible. So if you change this to, the current in the left side of the bridge will change, and therefore this potential will also change. Okay, and for a particular value of the left side current, we will, this potential will be equal to this potential, and we will get balance. Okay, let me call the left side current as I1, this as I2. Okay, so the condition required is that I1 times R3 is equal to V fixed. That means I1 should be V fixed by R3. Let me call this I star. That means the value of I for which we will get balance. Okay. Now let us see how I1.
Sir, why is the one terminal of the detector at fixed voltage?
That is because we are assuming the detector to have a very high impedance, ideal case. This is to make our analysis simple, because we do not want to focus in too many things. Okay, so if this impedance is high, which is possible, you take a good oscilloscope, this impedance will be very high. Okay, and then the current in, then this I2, whatever is flowing here, the same amount flows here. Okay, very little is bypassed, so same current flows in this branch and in this branch, and I2 is therefore V divided by L2 j omega L2 plus R2 plus R4. So I2 is fixed. If I2 is fixed, I2 multiplied by R4 is V fixed. So this is fixed. Okay, Amritaksha? Hello?
Yes sir, I got it.
Yeah, okay. So we are adjusting only I1, and so basically target is to adjust R1 and L1 to get I1 equal to this I1 star, whatever the value of I1 star may be. Now let us see how I1 changes as we change R1 and L1. V is fixed. Okay. Now let us draw some phasor diagram. Okay. Suppose this is the phasor of V1 with respect to some reference. Now how will be I1? I1 is V1 divided by R3 plus R1 plus L1. R3 plus R1 plus L1. Now suppose if we fix the resistance, okay, so let's fix resistance R and vary L. Okay, so how will the current phasor change? If L1 is 0, then I1 is V1 by R3 plus R1, and so that will be in the same phase as the voltage. So that is, this point is V1 by R3 plus R1 for some value of R3 and R1. Okay, and L1 equal to 0. This is L1 equal to 0. Now when we increase L1, what will happen? The current will become lagging. Okay, so current will maybe will come here. Maybe this will be the current value I1, and then as you increase L1 more and more, current will be more and more lagging. But at the same time, okay, at the same time, the magnitude of current will decrease because the overall impedance, oh, that was a mistake. Okay, overall magnitude is decreasing, and when you go for a very high L1, then the current will be nearly 0 but 90° lagging. So in this way, if you trace the path of current, it will look like a circle. If you have studied this circle diagram in your machine class, then you already know that. Otherwise, no problem. I'm just telling that as you change L1, okay, as you change L1, keeping the resistance fixed, you will move along a circular path on the phasor diagram. Okay, but in the same way, now if you start with a different value of R1 and you change your L1, then you will move along a different path like this. Okay, so these are the different paths for different values of R and changing L. Okay, okay, acha. In the same way, now let us see how current changes if we keep the L fixed and vary resistance. Okay, if we keep the L fixed, then for nearly 0 resistance, we will get 90° lagging current of some magnitude. Okay, for a fixed L and 0 resistance. Now as we increase resistance, the current will go, in this direction towards the voltage, but its magnitude will decrease. Okay, and if we plot this graph, by taking different value of R1, starting from R1 plus R3, R3, the total resistance equal to 0, and then if we increase resistance, we will move in this path. For very high resistance, current will be 0. Okay, and again, now if we start, so this is for so this curve is for fixed, what is fixed here?
Inductance.
Fixed L varying R, absolutely right, fixed L, and these curves are for fixed R. Now if I start with a different value of L and change my resistance, I will move in this way. Okay, so these are the paths through which I move when I keep one fixed and change the other. So far, so fine. Now suppose this I star, this is the value of I1 for which I will get the balance. Suppose that point is somewhere here, anywhere. Suppose this is the value of I star. Okay, then by changing the value of resistance and inductance, that means by moving on these curves, I have to come to this point. Okay, so I may start from some value of R and L, and then I may keep the resistance fixed, and then I may vary the inductance. I may come up to this point, and after this I may keep the inductance fixed and vary the resistance and move in this way, and I may come here, and then I will get the balance. Okay, that is what will happen on a nutshell. But now let me see this picture in more detail by zooming in near this I star. Okay, let us zoom in. Okay, so this is the voltage axis, and let me zoom in near this point I star. So near this point we have this these lines. These lines, these are what line? Fixed R lines. So these are fixed R, these are fixed R lines, okay, and these lines, these vertical ones are fixed L lines, okay. Achha. So let me draw that in a different color. These are the fixed L lines. Achha, let me not draw this here because I am zooming in so much, okay. Just zoom into this part, okay. So these green ones are fixed L lines and the black ones are fixed R lines. Now suppose we start with some value of R and L, arbitrary value of R and L. Suppose we start from here, and then we are suppose keeping the resistance fixed and this is fixed L. Suppose we are keeping the resistance fixed and changing the inductance, okay. Then from here we will move along this path in this way, okay. We can go on this path either in this direction or this direction starting from this point. Now we will find the point of minimum deflection, okay. So we will change this and find the point where we get minimum deflection, okay, and that will come maybe somewhere here, maybe a point which is closest to this I star. This point is I star, okay, this point is I star. So if we are keeping the inductance fixed and changing the resistance only, then maybe at this point we will get the minimum deflection. After that, now starting from this point, we will vary inductance keeping resistance fixed. So now we will vary along this path, okay. Starting from here, we are keeping resistance fixed and varying inductance. So now as I move in this direction, here I come very close to the I star and I will get balance. So in this diagram I see that just in 2 steps I get the balance, okay. But now let us see another situation where suppose these are the fixed R lines just like this, but fixed L lines are like this, okay. I mean they are, in this case they were nearly orthogonal, nearly perpendicular. In this case they are quite oblique. I mean depending on where is your I star, you may be either in this situation or in this situation. So these fixed R and fixed L lines, they may be very oblique or they may be very orthogonal, perpendicular, okay. Both situations are possible. Now let us see what happens if this is the case. So these are fixed L lines and let this be the I star point where we will get the null, and let this be my starting point. Suppose this is my starting point, and now suppose I first keep the inductance fixed and vary the resistance, okay, where we actually let me do it the other way. Let me first keep the resistance fixed and vary the inductance. So I move on this line, okay. So I move on this line. Where will I get minimum deflection? That will be, maybe if I draw something like a perpendicular, maybe this is the point where I will get minimum deflection, okay, maybe here. And then after coming to this point, I will now change the resistance, okay. So now I will move along a fixed inductance line, okay, along this line, and find where I get minimum deflection, Okay, so now I will get minimum deflection here. Maybe if I draw a perpendicular, here I will get minimum deflection. So I come here at this point. Now, but I see, I did not reach the I star. I reached something else. And now after this, I will keep the resistance fixed and move along a line like this. And maybe at this point I will get minimum deflection. Again, after this I have to keep inductance fixed and vary resistance. So now I will move along a line like this, and maybe I will come here. So you see, since the line, these fixed R and fixed L lines are not perpendicular, it is taking me many iterations to come to this optimal point. Okay, and therefore it may be more boring than this situation. Okay, so this is another issue, how easy a bridge is to balance. That is also considered while these scientists, these engineers design different bridges, which we cannot go into much detail than this. But any questions so far? Is the idea clear? Can you visualize these things? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Acha. So, let me then talk about a peculiar bridge. Very peculiar bridge. The name of this bridge is Anderson's Bridge. Anyway, the names are not required to be memorized. Okay, this is a very peculiar bridge, and this is used for measuring an inductor Lx Rx. Okay, this is the unknown inductor to be measured. Let me call this as R1, 3, 4, R5. What can I call? C5 or maybe R3, C3. Doesn't matter. Okay, acha. The purpose of, why people or why Anderson designed this bridge. Okay, he found that for some range of the Q factor, Maxwell's bridge that we studied previously, we studied Maxwell's bridge, this one, and this is good for medium range of Q factor where L and R both are comparable. Neither of them is very high compared to the other one. That is the Maxwell's bridge. And then we talked about one situation where is that? Yeah, this where we said if this inductor is nearly pure, very high Q factor, okay, then Maxwell's bridge is difficult, maybe difficult, it depends, and then this bridge is one possible solution. Most likely this bridge is called Hay bridge, and then for some other particular range of Q factor, Anderson found that Maxwell's bridge or Hay bridge is not very suitable. There may be some problems, and for that he designed this peculiar bridge. Okay, and also one thing is what is stated in books and different sources, is that for some particular range of Q factor, Maxwell's bridge or other bridges that we studied earlier is difficult to balance. They will take more time to get balanced. I mean, recall this idea. Okay, recall this idea, how easy a bridge to balance in laboratory or how iterative the method will be. So some sources say that Maxwell's bridge is not good, not very quick to use for some particular range of Q factor. I do not, honestly speaking, I do not know exact details of that. Okay, so let me say that. So for some purpose, Anderson designed this bridge. Okay, so this is a peculiar, to us this is a peculiar bridge, but for us, it will be enough if we can at least find the balance equation. Okay, can we find the balance equation of this bridge? Any idea? How will you proceed? Let us take suggestions.
Sir, when the current through the detector is 0, RS and C3 will come in parallel with R3, right?
RS and C3, R5. R5 and C3.
Oh, R5 and C3 will come in parallel with R3.
No, yes.
Then I think we can apply the normal bridge equation.
So you mean this thing, one arm completely?
Yes, sir.
And then you divide R1 by this thing, this by this. But
Then maybe we can do another thing. If we know the detector resistance, we can convert it into delta.
Good. So let us apply some star delta conversion. Okay, but we don't need the detector resistance. Okay, so good. Thank you. So now there are multiple possibilities. If you go for star delta conversion, one possibility is you consider this delta and replace this with a star. If you do that, then this impedance will go together with R1. This will go. This will be this arm, and this will go in series with detector, which is of no relevance, and then then it will become a normal 4-arm bridge, and then you can find the balance equation. Good, that is one way. But I think there is another possibility which will be easier. To me, it's easier. Okay, instead of converting this delta into star, let me consider this star. Okay, you see this star, and let us convert this star into a delta. Okay, so let us convert this star, so that will give one edge here, one edge here, and one edge here. Let me draw.
So could you please repeat which star you converted?
Yeah, I'm repeating. Let me make it smaller. It's visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me draw the converted one, then it will be clear. Okay. Let me name A, B, C, D, E. Okay. Now between A and E, I won't change anything. A, this is E, LX, RX, let it remain as it is. Let the detector be also at its position. So this terminal is D. This also unaltered, R4. This is C, and the source is also there. Okay, achha. Now consider these three branch BA, BD, BC. BA, BD, BC as a star. B the center, BA, BD, BC is a star, and that I am converting as this arm plus this arm, okay, and then this AD, BC and AC, then this. Okay, do you see this star? I mean, this it's not like a symmetric star, I mean, so but this is the center of the star. 1, 2, 3 arms, and these one edge, two edge, these are the three edges of a delta. 1, 2 and 3. Okay, achha. Next, and the nice, oh, and this will remain. This capacitor is there, still there, unchanged. So I'm changing only R1, R5 and R3. Three resistances. I'm not touching this capacitor. That is also nice about converting this star into delta. Only resistances are involved. No capacitor is involved. Okay. So now how much will be this one? Star to delta. Do you remember?
So will it be R1 R5 by R1 R5 plus R5 R3 plus R1 R3?
It's the ABBCCA by opposite one. That's the let me call it RAD.
So it is product by summation, right? Like product of two adjacent resistances by summation.
One second. RAC and RDC. Okay. So start to delta is ABBCCA. I mean all products by opposite one. So RAD. This one will be R1, R3 plus R3, R5 plus R5, R5, R1, 1, 3, 3, 5, 5, 1 whole divided by the opposite one. Opposite to this is R3. Fine? Okay, and in the same way, RDC, that will be all products 1, 3, 3, 5 and 5, 1 divided by the opposite one, which is opposite to this 1. Check please, I may make mistakes. Okay, now once this is done, what about RAC?
So we don't need to be
We
bothered
don't
about
need
them.
to be bothered about RAC. This is in parallel to the source. It will just consume. It consumes current, but it does. So bridge is only this part. Okay. So which are the? So this is one arm of the bridge. These two together is the second arm. This is the third arm, and this is the fourth arm. Now can you find the balance equation? Actually, now this is actually a familiar bridge. We already studied this. Can you recognize this bridge? Which bridge is this?
Maxwell's bridge.
It's the Maxwell's bridge. It's the Maxwell. So you can use the Maxwell's bridge equation. Okay, fine. So that's all about bridges, SE bridges. Okay, we will study one more thing. Mutual inductance measurement using bridges. But before going to bridges, I mean, let us do something even simpler. Okay, so suppose I have a pair of, coupled coils. Let me draw. Okay, this is unknown. Call it mx, x for unknown. The coupling, mutual inductance between these two coils is mx, which is unknown. It also has self-inductances, but we are not at this point interested about measuring the self-inductance. We want to only measure the mutual inductance. And to measure this, we will use a standard mutual inductor. Suppose we have that.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, like what was the name of the last bridge which you did?
Anderson's bridge. The name may be required only to go to the book and read, find the page number and read. Otherwise, you don't have to remember names. Acha. So now suppose this is a standard one. So mutual inductance between these two coils is known. Call it MS, S for standard, and we want to measure it. Oh, also we need dots. Okay, without that we can't do anything, and particularly for the standard one, the dots must be known and will be known. For the unknown one, the dot may not be known a priori, maybe that is also unknown. Okay, now how can we calibrate? The simplest thing we can do is this: just connect this. Come. Yeah. To a source. You may also like to put resistances to control current, etc. Yeah. And here what we will do, we will use basically a null method, null deflection method. So can you guess what I am going to do? Okay, I should have taken the dot other side. Then my drawing will be. Let me suppose the dot is here. Otherwise, my drawing will be ugly. Here I put a detector. Okay, so now this is the variable one. This is the standard one. Now, can you guess what we are going to do? We are going to vary this until and unless we get null deflection. And when we get null deflection, that means these two mutual inductances are equal. So by reading the value of ms, we can get mx. Okay. Any question?
Why did you take the dots in the opposite direction?
Yeah, that's what I would have asked if you had not asked that. What if I take the dot in this direction? What will happen? So then
So we will not get a null.
we will not get a null because
Both voltage will have same sense of like
same
direction.
sense or same polarity.
But-
So
But for that we need to know the dot of the unknown one, right?
for that we need to know the dot of the unknown one. Okay, so suppose we do not know the dot of the unknown one, then okay, you can connect it arbitrarily and then check whether you get balance or not. If you don't get balance, maybe you connect it in the opposite direction, and then if you get the balance, then you will be sure here should be the dot. Okay, fine.
Sir, I have a doubt. Like either of them could be in in phase. I mean, on one side and on the other it would be opposite like that. I mean, we have to consider these two cases anyway, right? Even if like we consider the standard part to be the dots on the same side, will it be possible?
Acha, okay. So suppose the standard thing is known, it is like this, and this is connected like this. Now unknown one is not known, okay, before connecting it, okay. Unknown one is completely not known. Now, but I mean, I can put one dot anywhere in a pair of coil, because you know, I mean, if I have a pair of coil, I can always, if I can mark it like this, it is equivalent to mark it like this. I mean, putting the dot here. Okay, so one dot in one coil you can put anywhere, here or here, no problem. Okay, Achha. So then let me put the dot here, so that I get same current in both the primary sides. Okay, now whether the dot is here or here, that is the question. Okay, so suppose first I connect it in this way and vary it, and I do not get balance at all, then then there is a chance that this side is not going to not going to share this dot. Okay. Also there is another possibility that MS is hitting it's out of range. Ignore that. But then if I reverse the connection, okay, suppose very difficult. Okay, all I want to connect, sorry. Okay, I want this to go here and this to go there. Okay, so now after this, okay, I think it will be more easily visible. So suppose first I did this and I did not get any balance. Okay, after that let me change the unknown one. That will make more sense. Okay, let me change this. This goes here, this goes here. Okay, and now if I get balance, that means this side is positive, this side has dot, so now this which side will have dot? Minus, plus, plus, minus. So this should have the dot. Okay, so voltage suppose increasing, okay, from non-dot to dot it's increasing, and then dot to non-dot it decreasing, so they will cancel, and yeah. Okay, fine. But if I had got balance in the previous connection, then here will be the dot. Okay, so let me stop here at this point today.